when I moved to LA, I decided to streamline everything and make it more of everything is remote, everything is work for hire. I want to make it where, like, if I travel, I can do everything I need to do from my hotel room. I started storing everything to the cloud. I would have, these people do this and that remotely, even in different countries if I needed to, and just keep everything streamlined with low overhead and use all the digital technology, that we could.
Welcome to Cinema 5D on the Go. Moving conversations about moving images with filmmakers and industry leaders. Brought to you by Kessler Crane, Fujinon, G Technology, and Schneider, in association with Sony. This is your host, Nino Leitner.
And you moved the whole production company to here.
Yeah. I did. And then I also changed it a little bit because I felt like the climate of music videos and the whole industry was so different than what it used to be. Because obviously, everyone knows in the 90s and even the early 2000s, music videos were millions of dollars.
Yeah.
The entry level was hundreds of thousands. And then I'd known just from talking to people and see what was going on that, like, the entry level at these days was like, 5,000. And when we started, it was like 10,000. But it had gone even lower to, like, people doing videos for $500.
Well, even for big artists, sometimes you're like, there's no money in it.
Yeah. The big artists nowadays, like today, or even at that time, it was like the top of the game was, somewhere between like 250, 400,000. Which is decent if you're doing that stuff, but it wasn't what it was. And every once in a while, you'll have $1 million video come through, but it'll be like once a year or every other year.
Yeah.
And
if you think back the old Michael Jackson music videos and stuff like that, which were like, they cost as much as a movie.
Yeah. Michael Jackson had his most expensive video was $8 million. Yeah. Screen video.
Incredible. At the time, which probably would be more like 30 million now, right?
Yeah. So I knew, like, coming in that I had to figure out a more efficient, cost-effective way to do everything. And part of that started with, because when I first started, actually videos were still shot on film. That's one thing I kind of skipped over there. It's like, they were still shot on film. So when I was shooting this stuff on the HVX 200 with a lettuce adapter, that was something new. And then I've been going to NAB every year since I was 21. Because I lived in Vegas when I was 21, and that's how I found out about the show. So I would go every year, and I saw the year that Red first announced the Red camera, the 4K camera for 17.5, and everyone was like, "That's crazy." At the time, like, no one. Yeah. I don't care what anyone says now. At that time, everyone called bullshit on it.
Everybody did, and nobody believed when they announced it online and they just put up these 3D renderings. Everybody was like, "This is not a real thing."
Yeah. Everyone thought it was vaporware, and I will admit, even myself, I was slightly on the fence.
I'm still not sure if it's not vaporware. No, I'm kidding.
So I was not sure. But what really sold me was, I think it was about a year later, the camera still wasn't out, it was still pre-orders only, when Red released the first footage from it.
Oh yeah.
And when they released the first footage, it was like the fucking milk girls at a gas station or some shit. And and from that moment, I was sold. I was like, this is the future. I was like, this is what everything's gonna be done. Because I'd known that since film school. That's another thing I go on. In film school, everything was still being shot on film. I think George Lucas had just did Star Wars.
Oh, Star Wars Episode 1.
Yeah, Episode 1 on the digital camera.
Sony F-35.
F-35, whatever, right? So
it looked terrible.
Looked terrible, but I knew that digital technology grows exponentially. And so I used to tell everyone in film school, I was like, hey guys, in the future, everything's going to be shot digitally. And everyone laughed at me.
Absolutely.
They laughed at me because everyone in film school is like, these film purists. Like, they laughed at me like, oh, you're crazy. Everything's not going to be shot digitally.
I think it's still like that in some film schools, to be honest.
Probably, but it's gone, guys. The war is over. Digital
You've lost.
It won. You guys lost. Okay. There's like one film lab open still, only by Steven Spielberg. And,
well, the ones that still do it now is just because, like Quentin Tarantino, people who can literally afford it.
It's Quentin, Christopher Nolan, and only sometimes Spielberg now. Even he's a lot digital. So,
and even you have DPs like Roger Deakins who said that they would always shoot on film, and then they tried the Alexa, and they were like, okay, I'm never going back.
Bye-bye. So what happened is once I saw that footage, I was like, this is the future that I've been knowing about since I was in film school. And I was like, I need to get in on this. I was like, this is going to give me a competitive edge. And so I put the money down. I think the deposit at the time was $5,000.
Yeah.
And like,
how much was the red one in total?
It was $17,500, but yeah, once you got all accessories and accoutrements, it was about $30,000, right? So I put down $5,000. I had no idea where I was going to get the rest of the money. Like, that's all I had to my name at the time was $5,000. But
I think honestly nobody did who did that. And also, I mean, they delayed it so often. I think that you ended up having the money at the end.
Exactly, that's what happened. So literally, I put that $5,000 down, and I think it was like within the next year, I saved every penny. You know, I think in the end, I had to borrow a little bit of money, but I had most of it saved up. Well, by the time the year had passed and my number was up, and I got it, and then when I started shooting with that, like that's what really changed the game for everything I was doing. Because at this time I was still just doing independent artists, and I went from like, hey, the guy trying to kind of compete, because there was a few companies in the Bay Area that were still shooting videos on film, and people would go to them because they would charge. I think their entry level was like $10,000, you know. But once I got that red, I was shooting stuff that was looking exactly like theirs, you know, for half the price. And I took all their business. I took all of it, like literally all of it on just a little local independent scene. And then after that, that's when I started working with E40 and we started getting more nationwide exposure. And then I was like, hey, let's move to LA. But I wanted to keep everything streamlined and digital and different, you know, because when I was in the Bay Area, I told you I had an office. And at one point, we did a large visual effects project where I hired on I had a visual effects in-house supervisor. We had built a networked system with network drives for like 6 computers. We had full-time interns from Academy of Art working, and it was kind of like a massive ordeal we had built up. But we were making money, but everything was covering overhead. The overhead was so high, and the budgets were so low. It wasn't making sense.
Yeah,
you know,
were just feeding the beast.
Yeah, we were constantly breaking even. So when I moved to LA, I decided to kind of streamline everything and make it more of everything is remote, everything is work for hire. I want to make it where like if I travel, I can do everything I need to do from my hotel room, you know, and that's what I did. I tried to make everything digital, you know, even when our paperwork on set, because when we started doing label jobs and stuff where there's a lot of paperwork involved. You know, from contracts to releases to deal notes, everything. Instead of having all this paper floating around, you know, I started, you know, when iPads and stuff came out, we started doing everything on iPads. We started, you know, I started storing everything to the cloud. I would have, you know, these people do this and that remotely, even in different countries if I needed to, and just keep everything streamlined with low overhead and use all the digital technology, you know, that we could to do that. And slowly but surely it started to really form and take place, and then also the other thing I noticed when I came down here is when I was doing everything in the Bay Area, I was doing everything. Like I was directing, producing, DPing, editing, color grading.
And here everybody does just one
thing, yeah. Because in the Bay Area that was not strange because it wasn't much of an industry, and like I said, besides me there was only like 2-3 other people doing music videos on a professional level, and they were kind of all doing the same thing. Whereas once I moved down here to LA, it was like, yeah, everyone was so structured. Everyone was just like, oh no, you only direct, or you only GP, or you only produce, and like all this, and I had so many people tell me that, even like, you know, bigger producers who I'd meet at the time who were doing stuff, and they would tell me that, and I'd just be like, okay, and then I wouldn't listen. and then they would see the stuff I shot, and they were like, oh, well, maybe you don't need a DP, you know. And then I'd start to put together bigger jobs, and like, oh, I guess you can produce pretty good.
So much about marketing, isn't it? I mean, I'm also like a shooter director. Sometimes I'm mostly shooting, but you know, sometimes also directing and producing small things. Yeah. But I mean, as soon as you say that, you're not taken seriously anymore. Yeah. Because they always, I mean, usually everybody has one of those things which they're best at. Yep. And but it doesn't sound too great if you know. Yeah. Which I guess the end credits has your name 20 times in it.
I know, you know, but And unfortunately, it's just like, yeah, with I can see with movies and television, because you have so many more moving parts and there's so much more money. But in these music videos where it's been so depressed budget-wise, it's like, why would you not combine jobs?
Of course.
It's only what makes sense, and it's what it's allowed me, even up until today, still to just get more bang for the buck out of everything I do, because I condense all these jobs and get rid of all this unnecessary spending, you know? The only thing that I had to let go of when I came down here, and I will admit I was glad to, because it was probably my least favorite, and I knew I wasn't the best. That's my thing, is I don't have delusions of grandeur. Like if I know I'm not good at something, I'll let it go or delegate it. And the first thing I did was editing.
Oh, same for me.
Yeah, because it takes up the most time, and I'm
Absolutely.
like, I can't be sitting tied to a computer, you know, for 24 hours.
Such a time eater.
Yeah, and it kills my time to be producing the next job or networking with clients or doing all the stuff that's necessary to be done as a producer. It's like, you could be a producer or editor, but you can't be a producer and an editor. Like, that doesn't work.
I totally agree.
You know, it was just a time issue, you know. And I knew there was people who was better. You know, I found, and actually that was another thing I did. I found, you know, I guess I didn't find him, but someone introduced me to this editor in the Bay Area. His name was Minnie Hobbs, and I was looking for a new editor at the time, and he was doing kind of really smaller projects at the time, and I gave him a video, which was a small video I had, and it was great. I was like, oh, this guy is fucking amazing, you know? And then I would tell him, I was like, man, you gotta come to LA, you gotta come down, because at the time he was still in the Bay Area, and I was going back and forth. And, you know, eventually he moved down here, and he blew up. You know, he ended up hooking up with one of the, you know, the biggest directors out here right now. He's been editing all his stuff for years. Tons of big directors. He's got videos nominated for, he's got like 4 VMA nominations or more. Yeah. You know, for best video, best editing, best all that stuff. He's sponsored by Adobe now. Like he was just doing conferences for them at NAB this year. He's like their poster child for music videos and stuff. So I have an eye for picking out talent on other skills and stuff, you know, as well. And then eventually, after doing videos for a few years down here, expanded into, you know, representing and producing for other directors, you know, DPing for other directors. Because at the time when I first went, I was just looking for, you know, other ways to make income. And I'm like, well, since all these jobs are separated down here, I was like, I could do this for that person, this for that person, you know. Yeah. And
that's cool.
And it ended up.
So you wore different hats.
Yeah, I could wear a different hat and with no, you know, ego about it. Because I think that's also some people's problems with doing those different things. It's like, if you're directing one day, you know, and you're kind of the boss in charge, how do you deal with taking that step down to being the DP and you're not in charge and you kind of got to listen, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And I think some people have an ego problem where it's hard for them to do that.
Especially if you end up with the same people on set.
Yeah. But I don't. You know, I have no problem yet. Even if it's the same people, because all the people I work with, they're like family to me. Like, these are my friends, you know? Even when I'm directing or from producing or whatever, I'm not their boss. You know, we're working together. Like, we're friends and family, and I treat.
So it should be.
Yeah, and I treat everyone like that. You know, no matter what the situation. So, I've never found it a problem, you know, for me. You know, even sometimes if I have a friend who's like, hey, I need you just to come help out, you know, I've gone and done that.
Yeah, I mean, our whole industry, I think, is so much, you know, based on recommendation and your network. Yeah. As soon as you start being a dick, you know, the word spreads fast. Yeah. And I mean, you know, some people have built careers on that fact. But and then they just get hired because they want something like that, somebody like that, as a line producer, somebody sometimes helpful. But I mean, I agree. It's like, you know, you got to be nice to everyone because what ends up, I think, talent only gets you so far. It's just, you know, how likable and how social you are in set is really what makes a difference.
Yeah. I mean, it's totally industry built off of relationships and networking, you know. And in a way that can be sad because I've seen some people who are great, who are just awesomely talented, and sometimes it's hard for them to excel just because they don't know the right people, or they're not in the right places at the right time, you know, and
or they don't show their work. I mean, I have people, I know friends of mine or colleagues of mine where I'm like, oh, you do amazing stuff, but you don't have a website, or you don't put enough stuff online or stuff like that.
I have a wonderful story about
Absolutely crazy. Yeah.
When I was first working in the Bay Area, I had a friend who was kind of like my business partner in helping out.
Yeah.
And he was more so in the music side of the music industry than I was. And so at the beginning, I was just doing work, and I was just putting it on Vimeo and YouTube, and I thought that was good enough.
Of course.
Like, right, I didn't have a website or anything. So my friend goes to this big music conference, I think it was in Vegas, and he literally, like, runs into P. Diddy, Sean Combs. He's at a private party in his suite.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, yeah. He's like, hey, I want to show you guys our stuff. And he looks at stuff, he's like, oh, this is great. He's like, and then he was like, send me your website, right? And he's like, oh yeah, we don't have a website, we just got this. And then he literally went off on him. He's like, oh, you guys don't have a website? That's so unprofessional. I'll never work with you guys. And literally actually threw him out of the party. Okay? Yeah. It was awful. Like, you understand, as a filmmaker just trying to start doing music videos, and you run into one of the biggest music moguls in the industry, and he literally just said how unprofessional we were for not having a website. Oh, that was the worst day ever.
I'm sure he had a website the next day.
Yeah, the next day. The next day, I had a website.
Oh my God.
And the funniest thing is, it still came around.
But why does he get so wound up on it? I mean, it's just, it should be about the work, right?
Yeah. He loved the work. At first he was loving it. He's like, oh, this is nice. I like this. Like, he was really feeling it, apparently, my friend said. And as soon as the no website thing came up, it was just door shut immediately, you know? But the funny thing is, everything comes full circle, because actually just a month ago, I did a video for one of his artists, Machine Gun Kelly. So, you know,
cool.
That door shut, but it didn't shut forever.